Talking Wellness. We're here with the lovely Tracey Cleeve, and I'm going to introduce her in just a moment. But to explain a little bit about what these talks are, where they come from. This has been a project of mine, actually for a long time, but the focus has been in the last few weeks. It's been sort of coming to fruition. And over the last sort of 30 years or so, hey Charlotte, welcome. Yeah, I think I did something weird to my microphone. Sorry. So the I'm aware that I have a great deal of knowledge. I have 30 plus years of spa and wellness experience. And you know what? That's great. I've got a lot of stuff that I can share. Even better than that, I know probably some of the coolest people on earth, some of the most amazing women who just know a ton of stuff, and they are in my world, and they are happy to share what they know. And so tonight is one of those nights where I'm going to introduce you to one of my very good friends and just an amazing therapist, Tracey Cleeve. Tracey is, wow, what is she not? Tracey is a kinesiologist. She's a massage therapist. She's been a serious volleyball player for most of her life. She is just a walking encyclopedia when it comes to health and well-being. And tonight she's gonna talk to us a little bit about bloating, the causes of bloating, and what we can all do about it immediately to help us out. So Tracey is going to go through just a couple of explanation about bloating. She's going to talk a little bit about the underlying causes of it, and she's also going to answer some of your questions, and of course there will be an opportunity for a Q&A at the end. Now, if you do have questions, pop them in the comments for me, because I can pass them on to her. As questions come up, just write them down for me. I'll be going through those as she's talking. Make sure that you do give her a thumbs up if you're loving what you're hearing, and say hi in the comments. Let me know that you're watching and listening. So without further ado, I am going to introduce you to the marvelous, the wonderful Tracey Cleeve. Hello.
Hiya.
Wave to the world, Tracey.
Love that attitude.
I know, amazing. So, Tracey, as I said in the introduction, you and I have known each other for, I don't know, just the best part of 5 years, but it kind of feels like we've known each other forever, doesn't it?
It does feel like longer than 5 years. Are you sure it's only 5?
Yeah, no, I checked. I did my homework before before we went on. Yeah. So for sort of 5 years, you and I have been on kind of a similar journey in many ways, in that you've been growing and developing your own skills, as well as kind of branching out into slightly different areas that you weren't involved in. And one of your key areas is obviously kinesiology. That's something I think that you're best known for right now. And your kinesiology knowledge is something that I really want to draw on tonight. So our subject is bloating. Bloating is something that that we've all experienced at some point, I think, in our life. Women seem to be more prone to it than men, but we all have the possibility that this can happen. And it's not just about your tummy being a little bit bigger and maybe your trousers feeling a bit tighter. It's actually, it has quite an emotional side to it as well, in terms of how we feel about ourselves and how we view ourselves. And I think that everybody out there is just probably dying to know, first and foremost, what is bloating? What actually happens when our belly gets big? Just explain to me where this is coming from.
Well, it's kind of almost like we're having a civil war on our gut. So, we get gases that come from the environment. So 20% of our gases that are coming in are coming from externally. And then also, 80% of our digestive process as well are creating gases in the system, but many things can create gases, and primarily, what I'm really sort of like passionate about is like what we actually put in to our system and how we eat. contributes to our bloating. Plus, you've also got, you know, hormones, IBS, drinking carbonated, you know, drinks, for instance, because you know, we breathe out carbon, don't we? And then we're putting the bubbles in, so we're putting carbon back in. So what's that going to do? Imagine what happens when you open a can of Coke.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, also think about in our stomachs. Our stomach is an acidic environment. So you can imagine when that fizzy Coke goes into that acidic environment, what is that reaction going to do? If you put acid in with Coca-Cola, what do you think would happen?
A lot more fizzing.
I know. So that's kind of, you know, you've probably seen, you know, when we were younger, we used to like clean the 2 pennies and 1 pennies with Coca-Cola, you know, or anything that was kind of tarnished. You'd clean it with, you know, with cola, wouldn't you? So imagine, so if that's happening, what's happening to our guts?
Trace, why is it that women are more prone to bloating than men? That seems a little bit unfair.
Okay, so there's quite a few things with that. What's interesting is that our intestines are actually 10 centimeters longer than men's. So ours are a lot, I know. So ours are a lot more squiggly. Okay. So men's look like a nice kind of like.
Mine feels squiggly, I can tell you that.
The reason why they're squiggly is because we've got our ovaries making room and our womb in there. So, you know, our walls are softer than a man's walls. So his abdominal walls are a lot firmer than what ours are, because ours have to expand. So imagine, you know, when pregnancy comes into our monthly cycles, we expand and then we ping back.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed we ping out.
Yeah. Okay. So with our like longer intestines and our squidgy walls, we don't have a lot going for us. I get that. So what are we supposed to do about it? How can we manage bloating? Because I know for myself that there's times when I think I'm eating well. I think I'm you know, doing all the right things, and suddenly, like, you know, I look like I'm like 8 months pregnant at the end of a meal. What can I do to manage this?
Okay, so when, you know, being in clinic and seeing the clients that I do, the first thing that we look at when people are getting bloated all the time is we look at blood sugars. Okay, so if our blood sugars are going crazy, then our whole system is going to be out of whack. So the way to actually manage our blood sugars and the way to manage our bloating is by how we eat and what we eat. So when people first come to me, it's all about, I don't necessarily get people to cut back on loads of food. What it is about changing how they're eating to try and get them healthy. So it's making sure that we're eating all 3 macronutrients. Okay, so macronutrient, okay, is protein, fat, and carbohydrate. Okay, so making sure that we're eating all of those 3 helps balance our blood sugar. So imagine if you're eating something sweet, blood sugars are going to spike. Okay, so if what goes up must come down. Okay, so there are ways to help battle that, to help the drop not be so severe and the spike not be so severe. So by having protein and fat with that, it's a slower release of the sugars. Okay, so if it's a slower release, it's not going to be such a massive crash afterwards. We're not going to get those, you know, those afternoon snoozes that we can get. I know if I'm having an afternoon snoozy attack that I've had too much carb and not enough protein or fat in my diet. And then I'm like, oh, you know. Yeah. And I think because I'm conscious of that and I'm aware of that, I know that I haven't eaten balanced enough. So, I mean, my practitioners, you know, my mentor was always saying to me, you know, you're not getting enough protein, Tracey, because I'm vegetarian as well. So I have to be really, really sort of like mindful of that and think about, you know, how am I getting my protein in? Because actually, you know, a lot of people say, yeah, but you get loads of protein from broccoli, da, 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 da. And yes, there is protein in broccoli. However, the macronutrient of the broccoli is actually a carbohydrate. All vegetables and fruits are carbs. Okay, so if we eat a lot of carbs, and yum yum yum, we all love carbs, don't we? We love, there's all the pastas, the rices, all these things, it can contribute to bloating if we're not eating the fat and the protein. Is that people are really kind of almost scared of fat, I find. But there's lots of good healthy fats out there. I mean, I love avocados, thank goodness. So for breakfast I'd have a protein shake. So I'd have a good hemp protein. That's what I'm into at the moment. And then I would make sure I've got a little bit of banana, a little bit of avocado in there, some flax seeds, to give me kind of a nice balance. And that can take me through quite comfortably to my lunchtime. So, and I think it's one of the most important things, because our acids in our stomach are a lot higher earlier in the day. So actually our food should be more sort of like dense during the day. And then when we come into our evening, it should actually be a lot lighter, because we find it harder to process our food later at night.
Yeah, I find when I was living abroad, I would eat almost like it was almost like my dinner for breakfast and my breakfast for dinner. That seemed to be the way that that people were eating in other countries, and that was so alien for me, having come from a good Scottish household where you might have a bowl of porridge for breakfast, but you always had meat and potatoes for your dinner. If you didn't eat your own body weight in potato every day, there you weren't going to grow up strong, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, what you've also got to think about is with vegetables, potato is a root vegetable, so it's higher in sugar. Anything that's buried in the ground are higher in sugars. Okay, above the ground are a lot less. It's almost like all the green cruciferous. If I can't remember
the crusties.
Yes, I love the greeny stuff. Okay, it's the stuff that kind of is we can have amples of that, so we can feel more full because we can have a lot more of that type of veg on our plate, and then we can still have our protein and fat, but not to avoid the roots entirely. But if we're having a root, we need to make sure we've got a fat.
It's got to be balanced,
to offset. It's like our biggest secret is having a glass of wine and having a little handful of almond nuts. So how
I think you told me that. I'm pretty sure I learned that from you. Tracey, the lovely Charlotte has asked. Well, she's actually got a couple of questions, so I'm going to break this down into two parts. But she's just asking about bloating and the menstrual cycle, because obviously we talked a few minutes ago about the fact that women are more prone to bloating than men, and there is no worse time for it than when we're menstruating. Why do we get more bloated when we're menstruating?
Because of cortisol. So we've got a cortisol. Cortisol, which is a sugar, and then we get more cravings for that more yummy carb type foods. And and coming up to sort of like perimenopause, menopausal as well. We get this. We get that bloating below the belly button. And that bloating below the belly button is our hormones out of whack. But again, the way to actually combat that is exactly what I'm saying. And you're going to hear it's like a broken record from me. Blood sugars. The amount of times that through all the training that I've been doing, my mentor's saying, blood sugars first, Tracey, blood sugars first. Or if, someone's come to clinic and think, oh, I'm not quite sure about something. Have you checked the blood sugars? Okay. Regardless of anything, if people are coming in with stress, it's still sorting the blood sugars out first, eating balance with protein, fat and carb. I mean, the other thing is people, they are working they're eating as fast as they work. They're sort of grabbing something, we're still at the computer and we're eating as we go. I mean, when was the last time that you actually sat around a table, with the family or with your partner and or even on your own, just to eat quietly? Or is it's always kind of either at the lap quickly, or you're rushing out the door, or just grab a sandwich and run out the door with it. They've got the kids to pick up, they've got so many things at work, the bosses. So we've got that stress. We're then craving more carby, sweetie foods because the cortisol's going. And then if we're on our cycle as well, it's even more so,
So is there something that we can do to balance that out, is it counter the cortisol? Would that be the correct way to say it?
Yeah. I mean, how I would be looking in clinic is that I would get doing the blood sugars with getting them to. I mean, I've seen huge differences in people just from changing their diet to protein, fat, and carbohydrate each time that they eat.
Right.
Seriously different. Within a couple of weeks, they've all made that. They've dropped a few pounds. I've seen it with men and women.
Yeah.
So I can't go on enough about that. And then it's about finding a good adaptogen that can really make a huge difference. So an adaptogen, So an adaptogen is a herb, okay, that actually, tricks the body into thinking that we've released enough cortisol into the system, so it doesn't go extra crazy. I totally believe in getting the right. I don't shove supplements down people's necks at all. The most important thing is getting supplements that bridge the gap between what is missing at the moment. I say to people, you're not going to have to be on supplements for the rest of your life, or drugs for the rest of your life. It's about making sure, the biggest thing, getting that diet right, getting that balance of food, and having, those key supplements that can really help. You've got the Siberian ginseng is a great adaptogen that can help with that. Getting a good quality one, and buying something that's off the shelf at the supermarket isn't really going to cut the mustard as far as a great supplement. So there's some really good companies out there. Really do sort of like investigate. I don't know whether I can name someone here because I don't know whether it's fair to do that.
Well, I recommend Nature's Sunshine all the time.
We're Nature's Sunshine. Fantastic. But Siberian ginseng, Nutricalm, nature's happy pills as far as we're concerned. If you're feeling on the ceiling, it normalizes you. If you're feeling on the floor, again, it normalizes you. And it's a great multi-B vitamin, and it results that you get from it very, very quick. In a few days, you feel different on them.
Agreed.
And I've seen that for other people, and I've experienced that for myself when I've been in a stressful sort of situation, or my cortisol's going crazy.
Oh, you know me, I'm never more than an arm's length away from some Nutricam on a daily basis. Tracey, Charlotte actually had another part to her question, which I think kind of ties in with what you were saying a few minutes ago. Is there any connections between bloating and your fitness levels? So, for example,
yes.
Oh, I'm not even going to give you an example because you've obviously got an answer.
Oh no, lovely. No, give me your example. I don't want
to. I just want to hear your answer. Just you crack it out, lady.
Okay. So, that's hormonally. Time of day of exercising can really make a huge difference to bloating. So, late at night, doing lots of exercise, what's going to happen is going to really get our adrenals going and our stress going, our cortisol flying, when we're actually coming into the time when we need to be resting. And in fact, actually what's perfect for you is like, doing yoga kind of like 7 o'clock at night, on your yoga wheel, is doing
my
lovely
stretching. 7:30 yin yoga.
So that yin yoga, absolutely perfect. So it's a nice gentle exercise. But the freshers, the CrossFits, the running, early morning throughout the day is going to be a hell of a lot better. And I'll tell you what, hands up, because I'm an avid athlete. I've played volleyball for years, and training sessions will be late at night. When I get home, I have to have chamomile tea to calm me down, because otherwise I can't sleep. I'm like that. I am up all night, and as I'm now kind of, menopausal woman, it's a lot more difficult for me if I'm doing a lot of exercise that late at night. I'm going to end up
to come down from it, isn't it?
So much harder.
I experience that when I'm teaching. Not so much at the moment, because since lockdown, it's great. I can literally roll off my yoga mat and roll into bed. Like, I'm not being funny, but it wouldn't be the first time that I've been teaching in my pajamas. And I just, as soon as I'm done, I'm just like,
Yeah.
into bed. But when I would teach outside and have a couple of classes in the evening, sometimes 3 classes in the evening, and then maybe have to pack up. I'm talking to people. I
Yeah.
drive home. By the time I get home, I'm still awake. 2
Yeah.
3 hours after. So if I get home at 9:30, I'm maybe still awake
Yeah.
at 11:30, 12 o'clock. And anybody who knows me, that I'm a 9:30 bedder. Like
Yeah.
I read a book for half an hour. My light is out at 10 p.m. So for me to be awake at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, it really messes me up, and I feel it so much the next day. Like nothing.
Mm.
It's like walking through treacle for me the next day because everything's just out of
Absolutely.
whack.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So we're getting ourselves to sort of like this. That I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I
And
have to
that
find
that
other
affects
ways to
that
help.
affects my tummy. That
Yeah.
affects
And
how
affects
I'm
our
digesting
endocrine
everything.
system, our
Yeah,
nervous system, our parasympathetic and our sympathetic nervous system,
yeah,
you know. So our sympathetic nervous system is kind of our get up and go, and our parasympathetic is our rest and digest, So we're coming into that time where we need to relax, and our hormones can go all over the place. The other thing that creates bloating is that, if when we get perimenopausal, our progesterone, when we get into our 40s,
yeah,
reduces,
yeah.
so the adrenals actually take over the production
And
of
if they're already
progesterone,
stressed,
and the body steals that
yeah,
progesterone and
yeah,
converts it into cortisol for the sugar to help
yeah,
us get going.
yeah,
So we're
yeah,
more and more depleted, and progesterone is like, makes us feel good, helps us sleep, helps
yeah,
us feel
yeah,
relaxed. And so if we're depleted in that, we're going to get all sorts of problems. Sleep deprivation will create bloating as well, because what we're doing is we're slowly crashing our endocrine system.
yeah.
And to the point that the adrenals are going, I'm exhausted, I'm not picking up the phone. No, you're just going to have. And so then it'll go to the next one. It'll go to our sleep. Our pine, oh gosh, pineal. Yes, then that'll crash. It'll then go to our thyroid,
Yeah, it's like
and our
dominoes, isn't it?
thyroid's our temperature. We get hot and cold. We have our
Yeah,
flushings.
yeah.
So everything goes out of order, and then we get to the point our libido goes. Yeah, so no libido. Yeah,
I'm not having
because
that. No,
too much
sort me out, Tracey.
stress, bloating, we just feel exhausted. The thought of anyone, shh, don't come near me, I'm so tired. It's a big cycle,
Yeah,
but this all starts from, how we're eating. It's
yeah,
so important with how it is today. There's so many convenient foods,
yeah.
but there's stuff
It's
that are
so bad.
sugars.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
I hear it.
I worry because, like, I like to have if I can, I like to have a vegan diet, but I have to be really careful because, there's quite a lot of sugars in some
Yes.
of the pre-made stuff. So I have to be sort of mind and think, okay, I'll have to make this or make that. So I know what's in it,
Yeah, no, I
So it's
hear that.
about making the time to do that. And I know it's not easy,
Yeah,
for everybody. Great through lockdown, fantastic. We've all had a lot of time to do that. There's been some real positives from lockdown,
yeah,
but the most scary thing at the moment and stressful is actually coming out of lockdown thinking, oh my gosh, I've got these things to do, what am I going to do? And a little bit of stress. We suddenly had a little bit of comfort eating, we're feeling a little bit more bloated, thinking, why am I suddenly like this? I wasn't like this in the early stages of lockdown.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I hear.
our emotions are
Tell
such a
me,
huge.
tell me something that we can do, Tracy.
Oh,
Physically do to affect
okay,
this bloating.
right,
Tell me everything.
right. So, but I have to have like a kind of a little story to talk about the
Tell me your
intestines to be able
story.
to go through. So it's all about making sure that we're chewing our food. Okay, that is one of the biggest things and biggest tips that you can do is masticating the food properly because it gets the juices going. The saliva helps break down the foods. We almost want to get it to a baby food consistency. So then when it goes into the esophagus, it contracts down into the stomach a lot smoother and easier. Because if we're shoving our food down, and it's going down, who's eaten, and you felt, I felt everything of that go down into the stomach. Hands up. I've been there in the past myself, so I have to really be conscious and think, I've
Yeah.
really got to chew my food, because then once it's into the stomach, the acids can do their job. Whereas when it's going into the stomach, and if we've been shoving it down and we haven't chewed it up properly, and we haven't chewed it up properly, then what's happening is the stomach is going to contract, and because the acids are trying to get on top of the food to break it down, to then go into the small intestine. And people actually think that they've got reflux, they've got too much acid, whereas in fact we've actually got too little acid. And there's a way of finding out how to do that. There's a little tip that you can do at home, is you can do a little teaspoon of bicarb soda into a glass of water, like a small glass of water, and drink that. And if that eases the symptoms, then you know you need an enzyme. Oh. Okay. If that hasn't worked, then what you do is you put some vinegar into some water and you drink that. And if that eases the system, then you know that actually it's an acidic problem.
Yeah,
so you need more of a betaine hydrochloride supplement to actually help combat that, for until we can sort of like help calm that down. Does that kind of make sense? But it's a lovely little tip, a little trial that you can do yourselves to sort of see what's actually going on, and a food diary. I always say to all my clients, keep a food diary, write down exactly how they're feeling, 20 minutes after food, hour after food, 4 hours after food. Because if they're lacking in energy, feeling sleepy, then okay, you've got a list of what you've eaten. Then it's about sort of like changing out, finding out where the sensitivities might actually be. I'm always looking for bioacidic, biogenic and biostatic foods when somebody comes in, and biogenics are the most important. They're the ones that give us the energy. Yeah. The biostatics, they're just fillers. There's certain foods that are just going to help us fill up. They're not going to do one thing or the other. And then the bioacidics are the one that just switches our system off and we feel exhausted and tired. Yeah. Okay. So getting back to what I was doing. So once the food gets into our small intestine is where we actually, absorb our food and we get our energy. But you can imagine if we've eaten quickly and it sits there, who's felt like, like this? And it feels like it's just all sitting there. Yeah. And then 20 minutes, hour later, we're hungry again, and I just want to have something else to eat, and then the whole process goes on and on again, and then it becomes this kind of like bloating, because what's happening is the food is fermenting, and then as that's fermenting, the possibilities of leaky gut come into play. We can get that kind of pain around the back where our bra strap is, when we've got bloating up here, because once we have absorbed our food there, what happens is it goes down into the large intestine through this lovely little valve called the ileocecal valve, okay, which opens up to let through sort of anything else that we haven't absorbed. So what happens is the water and all the minerals go out in the waste, go into the large intestine. The large intestine absorbs, the water and the minerals. Okay, so the macro minerals, so that's kind of like the zincs, the magnesiums, the potassiums. That's where we absorb, that is in our large intestine. Okay, but if we're getting too bloated and that valve doesn't fire properly, we're not going to be absorbing those minerals. We're just going to get this awful sort of like bloating happening up around here. And when people are bloated up around here, a good way is that where we can get to the edge of the rib cage here, with our fingers, like a little cup, and we can just massage along the rib cage. And it can feel a little bit ouchy, especially, because there's lymphatics all along there. And the lymphatic system, is what helps clean the blood. They don't necessarily don't pump like the cardiovascular system. It's a different type of system. So what this is responsible for is making sure it cleans the blood, and then the messages from one part of the body can get through to the next. If it's not able to, because it's got stagnated, and we can't get through, the blood can't get through, we can start getting aches and pains, feeling uncomfortable, feeling bloated, because the blood's not flowing the way that it's supposed to be flowing. It's having to find another way around the body. Does that make?
Yeah, that makes sense. So Tracey, I'm taking my fingers like a little cup.
Yeah, a little cup. Yeah,
just,
it's a little cup.
Just literally.
So imagine, there is my ribs, and I'm literally so from up here, almost near where we've got a little pointy bit of the xiphoid process. Don't touch into that, because that's quite a delicate place. Don't want you having to push in there.
And just moving side to side.
Yeah, side to side. Just down to here.
Can I just tell you, there's just an awesome picture of our boobs right now. If anybody is coming into this conversation, they're going to be like, hang on, I thought this was about bloating.
manipulate that. And also, motion is lotion. If we're feeling bloated, we need to get moving. So being on your Lorna's yoga wheels are perfect, because you're going to help stretch out everything, doing yin yoga, or even just going out and going for a walk. If you're feeling bloated, go and walk out, even if it's for 10 minutes, put a timer on, walk for 10, and then turn around and walk back again. It's one of the biggest things. People aren't, getting out and exercising properly. It's the way that I get people back into moving, into exercising again. Walking is just as effective. There's so much science out there to walking and running and what it can do, and actually people walking, it can be just as effective.
All right, so I've rubbed my ribs.
Yeah, so rub your ribs. Yeah, lovely. And then the other thing is, like, putting your hands sort of like on your hips, almost, but just above the hips, below the ribs. Okay, finding the spine if you can with your thumbs, coming out just an inch, and then sort of just rubbing, so just like pushing up and down with your hands. So you're just kind of doing that, and you might find a few little bits. They might feel a little bit sharp. You feel anything through there, Lorna?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
If you find it,
there's so much that I'm feeling.
Or what you could get, another way of getting into that is you could use a tennis ball.
Yeah.
Okay. A tennis ball and a sock is a great one, because you can maneuver it. You can lay on the floor, or lean against the wall with your back and manipulate.
We have a lovely way of doing this in yoga practice, in yin yoga in particular, where you make two fists so that your knuckles are really prominent, and you put them under your back, and then you actually just roll from side to side so it shifts your weight. It's beautiful. But I didn't realize that I was doing that for other reasons. I did not realize that was undoing my bloating.
There are some lymphatic points through there that are going to help with your small intestine, because as kinesiology, we work with muscles to organs. There's neuro pathways from muscles to organs. So this is kind of like I'm a bit of a body detective, so I use certain muscles to test, to find out what's going on, so then I can sort of really get to the root cause, very much like a detective solving a crime.
I am very much about getting your Sherlock Holmes deerstalker on and getting really curious about everything that you're doing. Fully endorse that, Tracey. Fully endorse it. Okay, so I've rubbed my ribs. I've stuck my thumbs into my back already. Actually, I am genuinely feeling pretty good right now. I know anybody who's watching is going to be like, yeah, really? After like 2 seconds of doing it, you'd be so surprised at how quickly these things can change.
And it's only kind of like, between 30 to 40 sort of seconds where, it's about just getting that lymphatic moving, and, it feels so much better. I've seen such great results from, these simple techniques in clinic, and even sort of, we work with Chinese medicine and the Chinese medicine wheel and meridians, and there's energy running around the body, we're all connected anyway. So, the other thing is that I would run a meridian for this as well, which is very, very easy. So from the lateral side of the little pinky finger.
Does it matter which hand, left or right?
No, because we do it both sides, okay? And literally take 2 fingers and hold the edge of the little finger, and then you're going to go up the outside.
I can't see. You need to.
You're going to go the outside of the hand like this. Up to here, up to your elbow.
Yeah.
Then you just go round the back. Of the shoulder, round the back of the shoulder here. You're going to come over there to here, a little cheeky ear. Yeah. So you're going to come along here. This can feel great as well. Up the cheek, and then across to just the top of the ear. And that is the meridian for the small intestine. And you run that 3 times and do it both sides. So from that little finger there, we're going to just run up the side of here, come round the back of the shoulder, up to the cheek, and then back to that little ear. And we always, to learn that, we call it little cheeky ear.
I love
So you're just running it. Lovely. Well done. Well, that's
I'm
perfect.
doing it.
Up to your cheek and then across to your ear. Lovely.
Perfect. I've got one more to go. I'm doing one more.
Wonderful.
I'm doing the full.
You're doing it.
I want the benefit. So how is this benefiting me? What is this actually doing?
Okay, so it's just clearing the energies around the body and giving it a real sort of like positive boost and effect. And it's helping with that, the energy of the small intestine.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then the other thing is we can hold what we call neurovasculars, which are little points around the head.
Right.
Okay. Which are they help with sort of helping with sort of like pain and discomfort. I know.
I feel better already, Tracey. Thank you.
Find the widest part of your head. So you've got the widest part of your head.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just with 2 fingers on like this.
Yeah.
And just holding the widest part of the head until you feel like a tiny little buzz under your fingers. You could even close your eyes.
I might just close my eyes.
Do nice 3 deep breaths. It's almost like you can just feel it's like a little zzz underneath your finger.
Yeah.
Just doing really.
It brings a whole new meaning to the Scottish phrase "I'm buzzing." I'm pure buzzing. Pure buzzing for this lesson, Tracey.
And that's, especially when we're feeling bloated here, it's just, something that you can do to sort of like kind of help shift.
Yeah, and it's easy. You don't need any special equipment. You don't need to be anywhere.
Yeah. And then the other thing I find which is quite grounding is like we've got these neurovasculars on the front of our head, and let's just put, a flat hand on my head, and then where it feels bloaty or painful with your other hand, just to gently hold on to it. It's just like a connection.
Yeah.
And
this is one of the nicest things that you can do. That you can do this for so many things.
And you probably feel the heat sort of like coming from underneath your hand, and it can be very nurturing, very soothing. It's lovely.
I love it. It really is.
And if you want to get a little bit more into detail, you can kind of almost make a gun with your fingers like this. And then where your pupils are, you just literally go to the middle of your forehead. And then with that, you can hold like that to get more specific.
Yeah.
Also great for headaches.
Headaches, well. I know. Or when somebody's giving you a really painful kinesiology session. Did I just say that? Is there any other points, Trace, that you want to share? I mean, these are pretty damn good, but is there anything else that you want to share?
As well. So again, if you've got large intestine issues as well, so we've got the inside of the legs.
Right.
So you've got the inside of your legs that you can rub up. Yeah. We've also got in here, that's what I would normally sort of like start with in a session, would be rubbing into where the arm sockets are around here.
What is that you're rubbing?
So this is lymphatics again, but this helps kind of like wake up the brain. So especially we're feeling a little bit sleepy, especially if you're kind of like feeling that those afternoon snoozes, is a great way to kind of like pick yourself up, and you can just get into around here where the shoulder is.
Yeah.
Make sure you can really feel it. You can feel a little bit.
Oh, I can feel it.
Yeah. Do little circles in there and just work your way around.
Oh.
Yeah, and then on the other side as well.
I think the only message that I'm getting right now is that it's been way too long since I've had a sesh with you. This is telling me that it has been far too long since we hung out.
And then the other point is like where at the bottom of your head, where your skull meets the neck, is to little circles underneath the occiput.
And these are all things that if I'm feeling bloated are going to help me.
Yeah, this is you're feeling a little bit kind of like tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of how to perk you up if you're feeling a little bit snoozy.
Right. Well, because you do often feel tired when you're bloated, don't you? You don't walk around with a bloated belly and feel like you've got all the energy in the world, do you? Like you feel sluggish. You feel lethargic. So, I think the two things are very much linked, aren't they? You've got to be able to sort of deal with one and the other. It's not just an isolated thing that you go, oh, I'm
Yeah.
bloated, I can do X, Y, and Z. There's a bigger picture to look at, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But I've had, clients come into me, and they've been really bloated, and actually just through working, through a digestive protocol, literally by the end of the bloating is gone down,
Yeah.
you know, just from helping, just releasing the discomfort. We really do focus on that little ileocecal valve, where a lot of the issues come from when that's not firing properly.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like work into that to get that beautifully
So
firing.
let's do a recap, Tracy. Just a quick rundown. The sort of top priority things that you would have someone look at if they're particularly prone to bloating would be number one. You would advise them to look at their diet, or in fact, you would advise them to get someone to look at their diet rather than trying to do it on your own, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can get advice, absolutely, definitely to do that. I mean, if not, looking at your blood sugars and protein, fat, and carb. There's a lot of information out there if you look into it. I think there's dietitian Cassie who's on Facebook somewhere as well, that she's really into working those sort of like macronutrients. You can get some information from her. I think to subscribe to her, I think it can be a little bit expensive, but she does put a lot of sort of free information out there
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So it's always a good one to sort of
We
look
can
at.
share
Really,
a link to that after the live, Trace. We can pop it in the comments.
yeah. Absolutely. So, but I can't stress enough about balancing
Yeah.
the blood sugars.
Yeah.
It's the first place to start. Doing the little test that I told you about, which was the bicarb soda, little teaspoon bicarb soda and water. Find out that if it makes the condition feel better, then you know that you need more enzymes. Okay, if not, the vinegar, and if that, then it's a more of a betaine hydrochloric issue, so, supplementation that you're gonna need. Best if you can see a practitioner, because they'll know exactly how to test for that, when you're lying on the couch. But if not, it's another way that you can sort of like do at home to help you with that. And then also how you eat your food as well. So making sure that you chew your food properly as well. Really want to masticate that food down, because the more that you can masticate that food, the easier it's going to get into the stomach, the easier it is for it to digest. That's what it's all about. Poor old stomach gets a hard time, because as soon as we start feeling refluxy, we go and get the
antacids.
Antacids. And what antacids do is they actually suppress the acid. So poor old stomachs have an even harder time of breaking down the food. Yes, we feel better because it's soothed, but then we've got the add-on problems of letting the bloating happen. It's harder then for us to actually digest that food in that bigger state. So the more that we can chew it down, the absolute better it's going to be. So yes, it's a very huge tips. Avoid carbonated drinks as much as you can. 80-20, if you're going to have a nice drink at a weekend and you like a little bit of a gin tea, I love a little bit of a gin tea at times. It's it's okay. It's that your 20%. But I always know, I think, if I know I'm going to drink this, I know what's going to happen. Because actually hormonally alcohol affects me as well. I know I'm going to end up feeling hotter because of all the histamine, more gassy, because I've had carbon into my body. So so avoiding that as much. I'm not saying people should quit all those lovely things. That's the last thing I ever want somebody to do when they come to see me. It is, and it's about how can we cut things down slowly that's actually going to work. Because sometimes if people cut things out straight away, never really, they lose interest in it. It's about,
when it feels too hard, you don't want to do it, right?
And I think our health is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's about you know, making adjustments. We're on a journey, you know, and we can gain sensitivities to certain foods on that journey. But it's about, you know, all those precautions that we can put in place that can make that journey easier or make us more conscious and aware of what's going on in our body.
Yeah, agreed.
Definitely.
So
you know, the other thing,
we're looking at our diet, making sure that you're chewing everything properly, cutting out the fizzy drinks, moving more is
moving
really
more
important
than anything is moving.
Any kind of movement.
Yeah. Any kind of movement. Remember, you know, motion is lotion.
I love that phrase. If you remember nothing else from tonight's wellness talk, then I think you should have that on a post-it somewhere. You know, get it tattooed on your leg or something. But yeah, motion is lotion. I love it. So we're moving more, and obviously a little bit of self massage is just a super quick fix if you are in that state of bloating, or if you're feeling lethargic and you know that everything isn't functioning quite the way that it should, then using those little points that we went over earlier, then
definitely. I mean, and also, you know, another important thing is keeping ourselves really hydrated.
Yes,
really important. You know, we can't have enough to drink.
Absolutely.
Also, you know, getting good oils, you know, oil and water. Okay, it's like, you know, if you oil and water your car for it to be able to move properly and for it to be able to feel fluid. True. You know, very much so for our bodies as well. So important for that. You know, and finding a good magnesium. If you're feeling sort of like achy, another thing that helps relax the body. Magnesium.
I love my magnesium.
Yeah, and you've got different types of magnesium. So you've got magnesium for when you're loose. You've got so for when you're loose, it's the glycinates, and then the citrates are for when you're constipated. So you know, it's finding the right magnesiums.
It's balance, isn't it? Trace, I'm going to put it out there. Is there anybody? Is there any questions that are either not been answered in the last 45 minutes, or any questions that have come up for you as Tracey's been talking? Is there anything that she can answer for you at this point? Or are you feeling happy? If you're feeling happy, then let us know that too. Do you feel like you understand your big belly a little bit more? Do you have more patience with why you're bloating? Because I know for me, I quite often get really an absolute pleasure, Charlotte. No problem. I get really frustrated sometimes with my body, you know, when it doesn't feel like it's functioning the way that it should. And you know, I'm fully aware that if my body's getting bloated, or if it's not feeling right, I did that. It's my responsibility. But at the same time, I get really like irritated by, you know, like, body, why are you doing this? So I think when you have a better understanding of why something is happening and the steps that you can take to control it, you can perhaps be a little more kind to yourself. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Because remember that one of the biggest things that kind of affects our digestive system and IBS is emotions. You know, emotional turmoil, emotion and stress. You know, we hold it in our bodies. You know, you can imagine when you see people hear something really, really bad, you know, their whole body gives out and we collapse. And then our body then starts to switch back on again. You know, our body is, you know, we hold emotions in our body. It's one of the things, I love to work with, you know, especially, you know, we've got neck and shoulder pain, and there'll be an emotion that's kind of linked in there, you know, and also neck and shoulder pain is very much related to pathway to the stomach. So normally people have got a lot of neck and shoulder pain, you know, that, you know, the diet isn't quite working, you know, changing how they're eating, then working on them physically and structurally as well, really, you know, helps hold in, you know, a session being fixed after, you know, kinesiology and massage kind of combination that I would do for somebody. You know, it's really powerful to to kind of like work nutritionally and structurally with somebody.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if, you know, you're walking upstairs and you're thinking, well, why are my quads really aching? You know, and you do a lot of sport and stuff like that. And usually, you know, from a kinesiology perspective, I'd be thinking, you're not absorbing your food properly, because our quads are related to our small intestine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So we've got certain, you know, so this is where the kind of investigation comes from. When people come in with certain pain somewhere, I can kind of work out what's happening in the body. Is it hormonal? Is it digestive? You know?
Yeah. Very cool. All right, Tracey. Thank you so much for sharing your time,
pleasure.
for sharing your knowledge this evening. If anybody is watching this on the replay, don't forget to hit the comments and let me know that you're watching on the replay. If you do have any questions for Tracey, then feel free to add them to the comments, because Tracey's going to be around to answer a few more questions should they arise. I want to say a big thank you to you for tuning into our very first little wellness talk tonight. And obviously a massive thank you to Tracey for sharing her knowledge. And I hope you will try some of the exercises that she's shown you this evening, and let us know what kind of response and reaction that you get to them. Let me know if they help. If you want to know a little bit more about Tracey, I'm going to share a link to her Facebook page, and you can also find her website, where she does offer online consultations. Obviously, in person is something that she offers, but right now she can still work with you on an online basis. So if you want to know a little bit more about what she does, or maybe have just a personal conversation with her, I'm going to leave a link to her page in the comments as well. So feel free to give her a shout out, let her know that you were watching her on this live, and that's how you found her. So a massive, massive thank you to everybody that tuned in live. Thank you to everybody who's going to be watching this on the replay. I hope that you got as much value out of it as I certainly did, and I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me and Trace. You are welcome to leave a comment, leave feedback. Make sure that you give this a little bit of love. Share it with anybody that you believe would benefit from hearing from Tracey, and from knowing a bit more about what she has to share, because she really is. I said this at the beginning, I'm going to repeat it again. The woman is a walking encyclopedia of wellness. So you got it. You want to get some help with any of your health issues, she's the person that you're going to go to. So massive, massive thank you once again. I'm going to leave some links in the description, and look out for us in our next Wellness Women Talk. I'll be sending out details of that later in the week. Have a great evening, and I'll see you the next time.